Well, welcome back. And Simon, how are you today?
I'm feeling fantastic, Frank, and you're looking fantastic too. And everyone out there in the Quick Hit family, it's a pleasure to be back with you.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we touched a little bit on lean muscle tissue in episode one, and so now I want to help the world understand that in bodies as a whole, there's some good literature and research that says that we have different body types. And so understanding your body type can also help you with regards to how nutrition plays in a role toward your body type. I mean, if you're looking at the screen right now, you're seeing a very lean face on yourself. And if you're looking at me, you're seeing a very blocky, broad face.
But everything is lean from the neck down though, Frank.
So I think it'd be a great time for us to explain to everyone that there are three body types generally considered in the Homo sapiens. So if you wouldn't mind maybe touching a little bit about that.
Sure. So there's been a sort of theory put forward since the 1940s, but there are three main categories of human body type. Now, look, this isn't necessarily an exact science, but it is useful and tells us some information about ourselves potentially. And so those three types are, I'm going to get technical in for a second, endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph. But let's make that a little bit more simple. An endomorph is somebody who might carry quite a bit of muscle naturally, but they also tend to carry quite a bit of fat naturally as well. Now, if we look at the athletic population, I want you to think of somebody like a shot putter or a hammer thrower, one of those field events in athletics. Those people, you can tell they've got quite a bit of muscle, but they've also got a little bit of fat over that as well, naturally. Okay. Then we go on to the ectomorph, and I would class myself as an ectomorph. It's somebody, if you were to look at perhaps a distance runner, a 1K runner, upward, marathon runner, they tend to carry not a lot of muscle tissue, but tend to have very low body fat levels, especially if they train and look after themselves. And being lean, if they do train and eat well, comes pretty fast to ectomorphs. And then the last category is the mesomorph, and mesomorphs are, think, more stocky guys, but very lean at the same time too. So think of 100-meter sprinters, that kind of physique. So you may find yourself favoring towards one of these body types. And probably if you look back to, were you athletic during your school years? What kind of events did you perform well at? And just generally, how do you look? Where would you class yourself as? So those are the three main types. Now, the likelihood is there's sort of types between types, and you could break this down almost endlessly, but it practically tells us a little bit about how we look naturally and what we can expect from exercise and good nutrition.
Now, why I think that it's important that people understand the difference of the body types would be, one, people seem to always think that the exercise is going to perform the adaptation. So in other words, if I exercise, I'll all of a sudden become lean like you. And that's really not in my DNA. It's not coded in my DNA. For me to be lean, I tend to carry a little bit more, muscle and body fat than you do. So understanding that if I start running, like you mentioned before, that as an endomorph, they're more of or ectomorphs are more of a runner and thinner. It's not the activity that's producing them being thin. They were already predisposed toward that type of body style. Is that what I should understand?
That's absolutely right. So this now plays into genetics as well. And sort of there's a whole host of genetics and even hormone levels within individuals, which sort of to an extent predetermine how their physiology is going to look. And there's a whole load of factors that those genetics affect. So your skeletal formation, sort of how big boned you are effectively, the muscle fiber type distribution that you have. So there are three main skeletal muscle fiber types. Some have a propensity to sort of be bigger and be more powerful. Others are smaller, but can go for much longer. And so individually, we have a genetic predetermination to what type of muscle fiber is predominant in our physiology. None of us are all exclusively one type, but again, we sort of vary, and it varies between individuals. How long your muscle is. So if you take somebody's arm, their biceps muscle, if somebody flexes it, some people will have a big gap between the end of the biceps and the elbow joint. Others, the biceps will go all the way to that joint almost. And it inserts, the muscle inserts further down the tendon. So they tend to look like they have bigger muscles because there's just effectively more space on the tendon for muscle. And then how we distribute fat. Some people distribute it on their hips and thighs more, others on the backs of their arms, others on their belly. And so fat distribution can be genetically predetermined to an extent as well. So where you gain fat, where you lose it. And all of these factors play a role in ultimately how you look. Now, and some people's metabolisms are slightly faster than others. And what I want to impress now is like, I don't want it to make it sound like, well, you know, you've got one body type, that's it for life. No, you can optimize your body type and you can be exceptionally healthy and lean to an appropriate level for you, muscular to an appropriate level for you, and literally be your physical best. So it's not like one type or one genetic setup is better than another. That's why we have this variety in the human genome, is because different types are good for different things. It's essential for our species.
I think it's important for everyone to understand that what we're trying to accomplish during our quick hit workouts and what we're trying to accomplish with the nutrition that we're providing is that I just want you to be the best version of yourself, understanding that you have not reached your genetic potential yet, and we're going to actually lean you or start to push you toward your genetic potential and making sure that you're being the best, most fit version of yourself, not comparing yourself to someone. I'm never going to be The Rock. He's 6 foot tall. I'm 5'6". It's just not going to happen. We might both be bald, but I don't think it's in the cards. Understanding that he has a propensity toward having more muscle tissue on his body than I do, because again, the bone structure, things like that. So I think women sometimes, they don't understand that the shape of their body to some degree was already predisposed, or they had that was built in their DNA, and they're able to enhance the features of their, you know, their body type and not really alter it. In other words, we're not going to be able, when someone says I want to target the you know, the skin or the fat maybe below my arm, that there's really no exercise that I can help them do to lose that area right there.
That's one of those, yeah, beautifully put, Frank. That's one of those really old school myths that just won't go away. But if I do thousands of crunches or sit-ups every day, I'm going to lose my belly fat. Or if I do hundreds and hundreds of triceps extensions with the arms, I'm going to lose fat and tighten up the skin on the back of my arms. Exercise doesn't work that way. What happens is we build the lean tissue across our whole body. We enhance the metabolic engine. But when we lose body fat, we lose it from everywhere. You can't pick a place and go, I want to lose body fat from there. And you'll notice as you go on that weight loss journey or that fat reduction journey, that as time passes, you'll notice some areas lose fat quicker for you, and it might be different for your best friend or your neighbor, and some areas lose it a little bit slower. And the further you get to your optimal body fat level, you'll find that there's one place that it's a little bit more stubborn at going from, but with that persistence, you can reduce body fat level for what is ideal to what is ideal for you.
And then again, given the understanding that, again, these body fat percentages, they do not take into every factor, what age you are, any previous injuries, any previous health conditions. And so it's important that everyone has understanding that if you're taking 8.5 billion people across, you know, the spectrum, that these percentages aren't always going to be spot on to the individual, and not to get too caught up in that, but more take the time to at least explore what your body's doing and how it's acclimating to the nutrition that you're now providing it and the exercise that you're providing it. I think would be a good.
Yeah, and you mentioned somebody like The Rock, or you could pick any famous actress or leading man in Hollywood or athlete. And, you know, if you're looking at that person for just motivation and inspiration to get in shape, fantastic. But if you're going, I want to build that exact body, unless you happen to be almost the twin genetics of The Rock, it ain't gonna happen. So you for motivation, great, but maybe it'd be also useful if you're going to do that, is to look at somebody who you feel is a little bit maybe more akin to your body type and go, yeah, you know, they look like I could look at my best, and then treat them as a separate model for what do I want to look like at my best. And that takes a little bit of rejigging in people's heads, because we tend to have as humans this thought, well, I can become anything I want to be. If I do the right exercise, or if I do the right thing, I can look anywhere I want. Now, you can make a massive, massive improvement from exercise, but ultimately your genetics do play a role in what you'll look like. But just take on board how beneficial being your optimal will be for the way you feel about yourself, and for your interactions with everyone else in your life, and in terms for being a role model for your family as well.
Fantastic. So I just want to recap that for all the QuickHIT clients out there, your trainer will do a nutritional assessment with you so that we can kind of discover what body type you tend to lean toward, and then more importantly, how your specific nutritional intake will affect your body type. Like Simon said, don't get pigeonholed into thinking, oh gosh, I'm an endomorph or I'm an ectomorph, and I'm always going to only look in a certain way. You can, to some degree, alter the things that are going on inside your body. Your exercise is going to help rev up your metabolism, which will help you start to decrease your body fat composition.
Well, that's a beautiful point to wrap this up on, Frank, because there is something we've always in the past in the science thought that we are kind of completely set by our genetics. But in the last 20 years, there's been a relatively new science called epigenetics, which actually shows that our genes are impacted by our environment and what we do on a daily basis. And we can turn up or down the volume knob on our genes just by what we're doing. So if you have a propensity maybe to store more body fat than some people do, you can turn the dial down on that by QuickHIT workouts and good nutrition. If you tend to be somebody who doesn't carry a lot of muscle tissue, you can still turn that dial up epigenetically and by the behaviors you have in your everyday life. And so it's not 100% in stone. So I don't want people to walk away from this thinking, oh my goodness, it's just my genes, I don't have to do anything. It's not. No, you can make a massive impact. And this is shown at the scientific level, because you can turn these genes up and you can turn them down, depending on what you do. And if you care about your kids and your grandkids and your grandkids' kids, it's shown that changing that epigenetic dial lasts for up to 3 generations. So you are impacting further generations to come by the behavior choices you make today.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, I think we will go ahead and end it there, and I appreciate you giving us your insight and that information.
Thank you, Frank. Been a pleasure.
Have a great day.